Today, I want to thank you for joining us for our third installment of our 10-part series of the top 10 scams that affect Delawareans. During this session, we'll be talking about credit card scams. And to talk about these scams, we have two members of the Consumer Protection Unit here at the Department of Justice. We have one of our paralegals, Rhynn Evans, who's been with the unit for about 2 years now. And we also have one of our special investigators, Patrick Malone, who's been with the department for about 1 year now. Between the two of them, they will discuss what credit card scams are, how they affect Delawareans, and what you can do to avoid being a victim of these types of scams. Now, before we dive in, I just want to remind the viewers at home that if you have any questions throughout the course of the discussion, please put your questions in the comment section, and I'll be keeping an eye out. And if we have time at the end, I will ask our speakers your questions. So without further ado, Pat, if you could get us started.
Sure. Thank you, Luke. Everybody know my name is Patrick Malone. And Luke was saying that I've been with the Department of Justice for 1 year. Actually, I have about 30 years of law enforcement. I was with Newcastle County Police where I retired there as a lieutenant, and had a lot of experience working in detectives and working these types of scam cases, particularly with credit card scams. One thing I could tell you is that if you were a victim or know somebody that was a victim, believe me, it's very easy to be convinced that whoever you're talking to, whether it's robocalls or whatever, it's easy for them to convince you that this is real. I'm going to talk about a couple of scams, and there are literally hundreds of different credit card scams out there. But the two I want to talk to you about, starting off, you can actually learn and tie them into a lot of these other credit card scams. One of the ones that we're finding that are occurring quite often now is called a credit card loss prevention insurance. This usually starts off as a robocall. The caller is telling you that national or Delaware laws have changed and that you as a consumer are now responsible for every fraudulent charge that was charged on your credit card. Even though you had nothing to do that, didn't even know your credit card was being used. Well, this is a scam. Really what they're trying to do is exploit consumers' uncertainty. They don't know what the law is. But it is a scam in on credit cards. If your card is used by somebody else in a fraudulent manner, you are responsible for the first $50 of that charge. But keep in mind with that is you need to be vigilant. You need to be checking your credit card statements each month. If they and there's any suspicious charges on your credit card, you need to report that immediately to the credit card company. If you don't report it after a certain period of time, you could be held liable. They're spending a lot of money to try to protect themselves and to keep themselves from losing money. So you need to report anything you see immediately. There's several other scams out there. One I'd like to speak about is the charity scam. This one right here is it's particularly cruel. They go after people's good-heartedness. After some type of disaster, an earthquake, wildfire, something along those lines, there's scammers, and they call them scam artists because they are good at their job, stealing. They'll get on and start reaching out to as many people as they can. They may pose as a real charity and say they're with Red Cross or the Salvation Army, something along those lines. They're trying to really pull your heartstring. They will tell a story about somebody going through this natural disaster and how urgent it is for you to get your credit card and to help them. And we all want to help people. But I can tell you that a lot of these are scams, and we at the Department of Justice recommend do not give money to people that are calling you over the phone. Be very polite to them, get their information, and figure out as much as you can about the company. Ask them for their nonprofit number that they can give you through the IRS. You can go into the IRS sites and check that to see if they are truly a charity, and donate by the phone. One of the other things that we really think it would be a good way to do it is there's websites out there that will tell you about the different charities. One of them that's a pretty good one is the Charity Navigator. That's www.charitynavigator.org, and it should be up there on live, so you can see that website. Run through that. This is a non-profit organization that's been around since 2001. They actually look at about 160,000 different charities, and they'll rate them to see if they're real, and whether in that way, if you go through them, you'll feel safe donating and knowing that the money will go to truly helping the good cause of whatever that disaster is, and that the money will get into the victims' hands. One of the things I want to talk about is a lot of these credit card scams, they start off as robocalls. If you've ever received a phone call and you answer it, there's a recording on the other line, that's a robocall. I can tell you most of them are scams. They said I've investigated several of these with the police department, and one of the advice that I give people is to get on the national do not call list. And I say I've had people tell me, I've been on that list, I'm still getting these phone calls. That's because you're getting the phone calls from the scammers. You're not getting them from the true telemarketers who do follow the national do not call list. So if you're still getting them, they're scams. And that's www.donotcall.org, and there's also a phone number that we can put up there for you to get on that list. The robocalls, and they're going to be telling you they can lower your utility bills, talk about credit card rates, and one of my favorites is the extended vehicle warranty. I tell you that everybody's getting those calls right now. I've been in contact with the FTC and the federal government. They are looking into these, but it's very difficult. I could talk about those robocalls for quite a while. We only have a short period of time, but just want to let you know that most of these credit card scams are starting off with those types of robocalls. And some of them are legal. If someone's running for political office, they can do a robocall. Your doctor's office can send robocalls, and charities also can reach out to you through robocalls. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Luke. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, for all of the useful information. Now to turn it over to Rhynn. Rhynn's going to describe these scams and how you can avoid them.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke. So I want to talk about protecting against credit card fraud. So credit card fraud takes place every day in a variety of ways. You can't always prevent it from happening, but you can create some obstacles and make it tougher for someone to get a hold of your cards and card numbers. So the first thing that I would recommend is treating your credit cards and account numbers like cash. That is to say, very carefully. This is a great way to head off potential misuse. Unfortunately, theft, one of the most obvious forms of credit card fraud can happen in a variety of ways, like Pat was saying. It really spans anything from low-tech dumpster diving to high-tech hacking. While consumers tend to be pretty confident about the red flags, it's important to remember that credit card theft does look like a lot of things. It's not always the first, concept of fraud that might pop into your mind. For example, a retail or a bank website might get hacked and your credit card number could be stolen and shared. You might get a call, like Pat was saying, with these robocallers, offering you a free trip or a discounted travel package. And as one of our sessions discussed, online shopping can open the door to credit card scams. Another thing to be aware of is low-tech scams. Be aware of junk mail coming in with fake credit card applications, and especially right now, scammers are really taking advantage of the hardships that people are going through. And so, it's good to remember the cliched adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you do need to mail something with personal information, take extra caution. Don't leave it sitting in your mailbox overnight. Just be a vigilant consumer in that respect. Early monitoring and early reporting is a really important thing to address credit card fraud. So one of the ways to catch credit card fraud early is to monitor your credit report. Our colleagues are going to be doing a presentation later in the week about consumer credit, and they're going to speak more in detail about this. But monitoring your credit report and your credit card statements is a key way to prevent fraud. Okay. This does take me into my last point, and the point that if you take nothing else away from it, remember this: report it early. Time is of the essence with credit card scams. So call the card issuer as soon as you realize that your card has been lost, stolen, or otherwise compromised. Many companies have toll-free numbers and 24-hour services to deal with this. Notifying your credit card company as soon as you suspect fraud enables the company to flag the fraud and shut your card down. Many companies even now offer services to expedite a new card to you, often overnight, so you're not without a card for a week or whatever. They're really good about addressing it. Once you report the loss or theft, as Pat was saying, the law says you have no additional responsibility for charges that you didn't make. A lot of times the liability that you have for each card that is lost or stolen is only $50. But if you report these losses to your credit card company early, a lot of times they won't even hold you to that. The sooner that you can let them know that there is a problem, the sooner that they can fix it. If you suspect that the card was used fraudulently, you might have to sign a statement under oath that you didn't make the purchases in question. But like I said, the sooner that you can bring it to the attention of your credit card company, the sooner you can file a dispute with the credit bureau, the sooner that it can be resolved.
Thank you, Rhynn. Now, it doesn't look like we have any questions submitted in the comments section, but it's not too late. So if you have any questions about what we just discussed, please submit it in the comments section. But for now, I'm going to ask Pat one question. So Pat, if there's one thing that you would like viewers watching this discussion to take away, to share with friends and to share with loved ones, what would it be?
Sure. The one thing, and I've repeated this several different times through investigations, is to get on that do not call list. At least that is a way when this is being investigated. That's one of the first things that they look at, the federal agencies that are investigating these robocalls. Was that person on the do not call list? To protect yourself from getting them, each person probably should reach out to their phone company, whether it's their mobile phone or their home phone. There's a lot of programs or things that the companies may do to help you, particularly with call blocking. With the cell phones, with the app stores, there's a lot of different apps that you can get that will help reduce significantly the amount of robocalls that you get. You may have to do some homework because there's so many of them out there. Look at the reviews. Some of them are free. Some of them you might have to pay a little bit of money for. But I tell you, if you're getting them, they're sending you crazy. Just to let you know that is an option to look at. You're getting the phone calls, and it may say the IRS or a local phone number from a local retail, and you're like, oh, I can trust this number. I can tell you that those numbers are being spoofed. They're not really calling. The IRS isn't going to be calling you on the phone asking you to make any type of payments. So really just make sure that you're vigilant, do what you can to help. The FTC says that the things that you really need to do is to hang up, put in a call blocker through your phone company, and report it to the FTC. If you get into the FTC's website, they'll explain how to report the robocalls.
Great, thank you, Pat. And the same question goes to you, Rhynn. What is something you would want viewers at home to take away from this discussion?
I think it's important to remember that credit card fraud can take the appearance of many different things. And reviewing your credit card statement every month, line by line, can be kind of tedious and it can be a bit of a pain, but it's going to be a lifesaver in preventing fraud. Like I said, the sooner that you can notify the credit card company that your card has been compromised, the sooner that you can find a resolution. And so just diligently monitoring your statements, monitor your credit reports, flag it early. That's really a key piece in preventing stuff, particularly with a lot of online shopping happening, there's just a number of ways that your card could potentially be compromised, and just being a vigilant consumer monitoring that is really important.
Great, thank you. And I want to thank both of you for all of the useful information that you provided throughout this discussion. I believe you really showed the importance of staying vigilant and how this type of scam really affects Delawareans. I want to remind the viewers at home that if you missed something throughout the course of the discussion, or you want to rewatch it or share it with friends, this video will remain on our Facebook page, and all of the helpful links will be in the comment section of this Facebook Live. We also will have a Twitter recap on Wednesday at 4 p.m. as well as on Friday at 4 p.m. And you can go to our Twitter page, which is DE_DOJ, and we will be recapping our discussions throughout the week. I also want to let you know that we are having our 4th installment of the 10-part series this afternoon at 2 p.m., where we will be discussing imposter scams. So if you have the time, please tune in. And I just want to thank you for tuning in and taking the time to listen to one of the top 10 scams and how it affects Delawareans. So thank you again, and please stay safe.